Hello, this is Muhammad Anas Fauzan, and this is my group's video presentation. I'm gonna explain our code. So this is for this section. It starts with a loop. This loop runs once for every subject the student is taking. So if the student has 4 subjects, it will run 4 times. Inside the loop, the program first asks the user to enter the name of the subject. Right here, they store each subject name into subject name array. Right here. So for example, if the user types programming, the program saves it into the subject name array. Here we are getting the attendance right after the program asks for the attendance percentage for that subject. Right here, this program this records how often the student attended class. Later in the program, this attendance value is used to decide whether the student automatically fails the subject if their attendance fall below 80%. Here, this loop runs through each main components of the subject, which is assignment, quizzes, and tests. The name of these components are stored in a component name array. So for each subject, the program will handle all 3 components one by one. Before asking the marks, the program displays how many subcomponents each component has. This is helpful because each component doesn't have the same number of subparts. For example, assignment have 2 subcomponents, quizzes have 3, tests have 1. So right here, you see that this is the third loop right here, subcomponent. This loop runs as many times as needed to collect mark for each component inside the current subcomponent. For example, if quizzes have 3 components, this loop will run 3 times for quizzes. Okay. Move on. Inside this loop, the program asks the user to enter the mark for each subcomponent. This is where the program stores everything inside a 3-dimensional array. Therefore, this is the format. Right here. Alright, now let's move on to the part where actually display all the results for each subject. This is where everything finally comes together. So after calculating the weighted total, the grade, and the GPA for a subject, the program starts printing out the full breakdown. First, it prints the subject name and the attendance percentage, just so the users can clearly see what subject they are reviewing. Then we enter this loop where we display all the components, assignment, quiz, and test, along with their subcomponent. This nested loop prints the component name and then every subcomponent mark the user entered earlier. This gives a complete detailed breakdown to the marks that have been inserted. Next, we print out the weighted total, which is the final percentage of after applying all the weightages. Then we show the grade for the subject, and finally the GPA, which is calculated using formula given. Every time we compute GPA for one subject, we add it to the total GPA array. because that's needed later to calculate the CGPA. Once all the subject process, the program finally calculate the CGPA using this formula, and then it prints the final CGPA inside a divider. This whole section is basically the result page of the program. It shows everything clearly so users can understand exactly how their marks were processed. Alright, so to start, this is where the user enters all the information the system need to calculate grades and CGPA. Right at the start, the program displays a message telling the user to enter the subject name, their attendance, and all the marks. This prepares the user for what coming next. We've already set up some important constants earlier. We have 4 subjects, 3 components, which is assignment, quiz, and test, and each component have different number of subcomponents. For example, assignment have 2, quizzes have 3, and test has 1. So now, when the program starts to asking for inputs, it will go subject by subject. For each subject, the user will type in the subject name followed by the attendance percentage. Here, after the program loops to each component, it shows component name along with how many components it has. Then it asks the user to enter the marks for each component one by one. The design makes the program super flexible because different components can have different numbers of assessment, and everything gets stored inside a 3D array called Smart. 1 dimension for subject, 1 for component, and 1 for subcomponent. So this entire input section is basically the foundation that gathers all the raw data the program needs to calculate weighted total, grades, GPA, and finally CGPA. Thank you very much.